Hello and welcome to today's session in the Get Unstuck series with myself, Sarah Archer. And if you haven't joined me before, I am a career and leadership coach, and I work with female leaders to create the kind of career success that's right for them without selling out or burning out. And I do that through either helping them get that next leadership role or be more successful in their current leadership role through having more impact and influence. And I created the Get Unstuck series because I know when I was a female leader, when I was an HR director, it was very hard to find the time to think about your personal development, your career development, your leadership development, because the day job was just so full on. So I wanted to create a little window in your week for you to have the chance to think about something to do with your leadership development and personal development. So 15 minutes every other Wednesday, I will be here talking about various topics to do with leadership and your career strategy. And I also have a podcast called Unstuck and Unstoppable, which I'll put a link to in the comments later, where you can also access similar topics. But obviously, if you prefer to listen walking the dog or doing whatever you're doing when you're listening to podcasts, that's another option for you too. So if you are here with me live, please do say hello. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know where you're watching from, if you're in the UK, if you're abroad, just pop in the comments. It'd be great to know. And obviously today's topic is a really interesting topic and really vital topic as well. And the reason I chose it, so how to strengthen your leadership identity, was because a lot of clients that I'm working with at the moment, female clients, female leaders, are struggling with some of this identity work, even in progressive organisations. And I think it's important that we talk about what's going on that can get in the way of our leadership success that is outside of our control, because we have obviously an awareness for these societal and organisational biases that exist. Despite all the great DEI work that has been done, those biases are still around. Even in the most progressive organisations, they are around to a degree. So understanding them and knowing how to navigate them through having a strong leadership identity is really important. So what I'm going to do today is run through some of those biases just to remind you of what they are, and then talk about 3 ways that you can strengthen your leadership identity and 3 actions you can take away to put into practice today. Obviously, if you've got comments or questions, pop them in the chat. Tag me in if you're watching later on replay, and I'll come back and answer them for you, or I'll answer them at the end if we're doing it live. Because obviously these biases exist and they create this kind of invisible web that we then have to navigate as leaders, because biases aren't loud, they're not obvious, they're subtle, they're quiet, and sometimes we forget about them and we think it's more to do with us than it is to do with what's going on unseen in the organisation, if you like. So obviously the first one that we are aware of is affinity bias, and that's where leaders tend to promote people that remind them of themselves. So if it's a male or male-dominated promotion panel or interview panel, they are more likely to promote a man than a woman into that leadership role. So there's also the performance versus potential bias as well, where studies have shown that men are promoted more based on their potential for the role, where women are promoted based on their proven experience, meaning that women are often overqualified for the role that they want already because they have to prove they've already done it, rather than men being promoted based on their potential. And, this isn't about being negative about men, because you're going to be working with some great men in your workplace. It's about the societal barriers and biases that are there that women also have as well. And some of the studies will show that, we are demonstrating those biases alongside our male counterparts. A Harvard study found that if a man and a woman both achieve the same result, the man is more likely to be seen as strategic, whereas the woman is more likely to be seen as hardworking. So this is why thinking about these biases demonstrates why it's really important that we own our leadership identity and our narrative, because we're going to be more in control of the perceptions about us, which otherwise can derail our leadership success. We've also got the double bind, which you're probably aware of, which is that likability versus competence. So a woman has to demonstrate not only is she competent to do the job, but that she's also warm, likable, and collaborative. And obviously, we know that, if a woman perhaps puts that to one side and just focuses on doing the job, they can be seen as cold, they can be seen as pushy, they can be seen as aggressive. And so you're always feeling like you've got to walk that very fine line between not being too warm and too likable so that you're not taken seriously in terms of the message you're trying to get across, but then again not demonstrating that likability, because not only do we have to be competent, we have to be seen as being somebody that people could get along with, that can be seen as being collaborative. Whereas a male colleague doesn't have to demonstrate that so obviously. And there was an interesting bit of research done by Sheryl Sandberg, which was published in the Harvard Business Review, where participants were asked, and so male and female participants were asked to rate a successful entrepreneur's leadership style, and they were told the leader was male, and they found him to be confident and competent. They were given the same information, but were told that the entrepreneur was female, and they found her to be self-promoting and harsh. So this is why controlling our own narrative and building up our leadership identity is so important, because we can't control those biases. We can only control ourselves and how we are projecting ourselves into the world. And then the final one is the prove it again bias, which is similar to the potential bias, whereas women have to repeatedly prove their competence. Women are less likely to be seen as risk takers in a study done by Korn Ferry, and therefore they were passed over for decision-making roles that required bold decision-making. So it's again having to prove that you have that competence, that you have that capability, rather than potential. Now, this constant pressure of these biases means that often as female leaders, we feel this need to always be over-prepared for speaking up in meetings. We always have to make sure we've ticked all the boxes before we apply for that leadership role or we go for promotion. We often undersell our achievements because we don't want to be seen as being bragging. And so the result is that you spend a lot of energy trying to navigate all these unseen barriers to leadership success. And, it can often feel like it's just that uphill battle the whole time to have the leadership success that you want, because of this invisible web in the organisation that you're trying to navigate. So let's move now to what you can do about it, because you can't single-handedly change that. Obviously, over time, we're hoping that those biases are going to become less and less and less, but they're still prevalent in lots of organisations, even really progressive organisations. And obviously what's going on in America is not helping either. So the three things that you can think about to do to build your leadership identity and really own it is to think about the three layers of kind of leadership credibility. So that's visibility, voice, and value. So visibility, if we take that one first, that is being really strategic about your leadership visibility. And I talk a lot about personal leadership branding with my clients. So it's being really clear about your leadership brand and how you want to communicate that and who you want to communicate that to. So identifying who are the key decision makers in your organization, because remember, your energy is precious. You don't want to be spreading this, visibility far and wide. It's better to be kind of targeted about who you want to be visible to and what you want them to know about you, so that you are on their radar. You're confident to talk about the work that you're doing, the challenge of the work that you're doing, the complexity of the work that you're doing, so they get a real understanding of what you're bringing to the business and to the organisation. And you want to be invited to the rooms where decisions are made. So having that visibility will mean that you are going to be included in those key decision-making discussions because they can see the value add that you are bringing. So one quick action you could do is to ask yourself, do the key decision makers in my organisation know about my recent wins? Am I telling enough people, the right people, about what I'm doing and the success that I'm bringing, the value add that I'm making? The second one is voice. And obviously that is your leadership voice in terms of how you express your ideas and the influence and impact you have through your voice. So again, thinking about the different opportunities you have to articulate your ideas and your influence. Are you doing it with senior stakeholders? Are you doing it with your boss and your peers? Are you doing it with your team? And creating opportunities for you to have the chance to influence and impact and make impact in meetings. So doing a kind of quick audit of, in the last meeting that I was in, did I feel like I had the opportunity to speak, the opportunity to share my ideas, the opportunities to ask questions, the opportunity to get people to have a different perspective? Because it's not always about asserting your views. It might be asking great questions that make people think differently. And again, it comes back to your branding. What do you want to be known for in those meetings? Are you getting that across? And the third thing is the value that you are bringing to the organisation, because obviously you're probably really great at what you do in terms of delivery, but you also want to be showing that you are a strategic thinker and a strategic business partner to the organisation. So how are you demonstrating that big picture thinking within the organisation? And part of that could be about taking radical responsibility in your organisation. So not just thinking about your area of expertise, your department, your team, but what are the wider issues in the business that you could take some radical responsibility for enabling other people to solve, or being involved in yourself in terms of solving those bigger picture, wider organisational issues, which again will showcase the value that you are bringing to the organisation. And if one of your leadership brand elements is about being a creative problem solver, then it might be that you are asking really great questions that help the organisation solve problems. It might not be solving those problems yourself in terms of implementation, but it might be that you want to be known for bringing that creative thinking to organisational-wide problems. So again, it's coming back to what do you want to be known for in the organisation in terms of your leadership identity. So 3 actions you can take to start creating your leadership identity or strengthening your leadership identity. So one would be to audit your personal leadership brand. So, what are you known for in the organisation? What do you want to be known for? And your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So one thing you could do, which can be a real eye-opener, is just to ask 3 trusted colleagues, what is one strength that they associate with you? So this could be a real kind of confirmation of your leadership brand if they're coming back with the kind of strengths that you're wanting to communicate to the organisation. But if it's not, it could be a really great opportunity to either identify the strengths that you have that you haven't been playing up to, or it might be about actually realising that things you're communicating are playing down your strengths that you want to be known for. So that can be one really great thing to think about doing. The second thing is to think about seeking out strategic sponsors. So you might have a mentor, which is great, who can give you advice and support, but sponsors can be champions, they can be advocates for you, they can be door openers. So if you don't have sponsors in the organisation or externally, it could be a really great thing in terms of your leadership identity to be associated with a sponsor that you really connect with and you can develop a reciprocal arrangement with. So it's not just about them doing everything for you, it's about you supporting them and also building the relationship that you have with them. So thinking about who in my organisation do I really want to build a strong relationship with, that they could also become a sponsor and advocate for me within the organisation. So when you're not in the room, that sponsor could be floating your name as somebody who could deliver great things to the organisation, or be part of a really great project, or have an opportunity that would help your leadership career. And the third one, which is perhaps the most important, is really owning your narrative. You know, if you don't believe your leadership story, then how can you expect other people in the organisation to believe it too? So really kind of self-validating, so owning your leadership successes, owning your leadership strengths, being really clear about them, how they fit into your leadership brand, and being confident communicating those strengths and your story within the organisation. So really kind of thinking in terms of that audit, what are you going to be wanting to kind of communicate around your story of how you've become a leader? Okay, so I hope that by strengthening your leadership identity, owning your narrative, defining your leadership brand, building your voice, visibility and value, you're going to be better able then to navigate some of those biases that we are going to face as leaders, female leaders in the organisation. And I'd love to know what you're going to take away and actually try out in terms of strengthening your current leadership identity. So are you going to audit your brand? Are you going to seek a sponsor? Are you going to do some work around your leadership narrative? I would love to know that. And I just see Mary's commented, so I'm just going to read that. So love your tips here, especially raising awareness by taking audit of what's happening in meetings, and also building strong relationships through sponsors. Absolutely. You don't have to do it alone. You know, it is also about thinking, what do you need to help you strengthen your leadership identity? And if it's something you would like some leadership coaching around, then please do get in touch. I can offer you a free strategy call where we can work through what are the kind of key things you're going to need some help with to get you to where you want to be in your leadership career. And I'll pop a link in the comments later if you'd like to take advantage of one of those free strategy calls. So please do let me know how you get on with thinking about your leadership identity and what you're going to do to strengthen it. And I will be back in 2 weeks' time to talk about another leadership topic to get you thinking, get you inspired on your leadership journey. So in the meantime, do have a great couple of weeks, and I'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much for joining me.